Where do you see yourself in 10 years? What will you be doing?
Um, I'm very curious to learn how we learn and why we learn and what motivates us in our social interactions. So, and particularly through language. So 10 years from now, I would love to be doing research in some kind of psycholinguistics area, particularly with language acquisition. So I'd like to be working for a university and doing research to understand how we process patterns, how do we learn and why, and how does that affect our outlook and our interactions.
Next question. What do you think is the most important quality in a friend? If you had to choose between honesty and loyalty, which one would you select?
I think that loyalty includes honesty because in order to be a very loyal friend, you have to be honest, you have to be open, and you have to be dependable. But to be honest, you don't have to be loyal, so I choose loyalty.
Next question. If you could have a long conversation with anyone in history, whom would you select and why?
There's so many people. Um, Probably Tesla, to be honest. I think he was incredibly underrated and incredibly brilliant. And I think that if we had been able to use his imagination and his talents better, that the world we live in today would be way more efficient and less exploiting of our resources. And I feel very sad for him that he didn't get the recognition and the support that he should have had, given how incredibly talented he was.
Next question. What figure appropriately fits the most appropriately in the bottom right slot?
This figure?
Yes. Which one out of these figures, which fit the most appropriately in the bottom right slot?
Out of these, I have to choose from these.
Yeah. Out of these right here.
Well, it depends on what type of pattern we're looking at, because if we go, we could look at them this way or this way, but I think it wants us to look at them this way. And I would probably choose this one. So here we have a blend of the rounded shape and the more concrete lines. Here we have a blend, and here we have the concrete lines and the rounding, and then here we would have the rounding and the concrete lines. But I think really, honestly, any of them could go.
Okay. Foreign language study in the elementary grades is often taken less seriously by those who are unaware of its benefits. In a well-articulated sequence of study in grades K through 12, what arguments would you present to parents, classroom teachers, administrators, and legislators who do not consider early language learning a basic component of the K through 12 curriculum?
I actually think it is the most critical to start language acquisition in elementary school, or before that if you can, because at that point your brain is so much, the critical period of puberty and beyond that, and the motivation to learn subsequent languages after that tends to decrease. And if you can start children early enough, they'll be more used to it, so it's not as scary when they're older. And then if you start them with one foreign language when they're younger, then they're better able to become multilingual. And you also need a lot less resources if you start younger, because then it's focused on learning to interact and play and speak the way you do with your native language, and as opposed to focusing more on the textbooks, which I think are more required for high school. But I think the biggest argument is that we need to learn to preserve our cultures. We need to learn to interact with not just what we're used to and what we're familiar with. And the more languages we speak, the better we can appreciate and relate to other people. And then if everybody were able to do that, then there's less potential conflict, at least in terms of the understanding boundary. So I think if we were to start children learning language in elementary school as opposed to later, it gives them better resources to become fluent by the time that they do graduate high school. And then if they were to do their job opportunities are incredibly more diverse. They can relate to more people, like I said. And I mean, the earliest you can get it, the better. Anything neurologically has shown that as soon as you introduce that pattern, your brain will immediately start rewiring itself that way, and we have the most plasticity when we're young. So,
Next question. Considering the teachers you have known, explain what you think are the 3 or 4 most important characteristics or qualities of an excellent teacher.
being a good listener. A lot of teachers don't understand their students' needs very well. They're very focused on presenting their material or showing what they know, I feel like, instead of recognizing that you can be very smart and understand something excellently, but if you are not good at explaining something and personalizing it on the terms of the learner, then you're not an effective teacher. And a lot of people focus more on being extremely smart at specializing at what they're good at instead of understanding how to communicate well. And so in order to do that, you need to be patient, you need to be very observant, and recognize what makes people comfortable, because people learn the best when they are not stressed out. If they have too many of the stress hormones in their brains, they forget very easily, they become less present, and they're worried, and then they're not able to absorb. So we need to create an environment where the teacher, is respectful, relaxed, and invites the students to come on a journey with them where everybody's learning, and being able to simplify, to speak in the most efficient way possible, and be open to trying different methods, whether they're physical or visual, or having people speak more.
Next question. What are the most effective and most problematic things you can remember about how you were taught Spanish in high school?
I personally hated just sitting there and reading out of the book. I don't think that didn't do much for many people. A lot of kids lost interest, and I just remember that was how we started off. And then on the fun side, when we did group activities where we had to create our own dialogues after watching dialogues, that was really helpful. I loved when we got to do there's videos where you hear different Spanish speakers, and then you try to, you go and you make your little group activity where you write your own dialogue based on what you see. And then you have an idea of, okay, well, what's the right intonation I need to have, and what types of phrases and words are useful? What do people actually say? Because I think a lot of stuff in textbooks that I've had has been more, this is traditional grammar, this is traditional vocabulary, and instead we really need to say, well, why do people communicate? What is the purpose of communication? That's what you want to learn. You want to understand how to think like them instead of just memorizing things. And so instead of having this painful lesson plan, I think it's way more efficient if you say, okay, let's make this interesting. Let's figure out why it's important. And for example, when you learn about, like the parts of the body or your family relations, you can really personalize those in ways that you don't have to memorize them because you won't forget. And you realize, like, these are my fingers. So when I think about finger, I look and I say, dedo, like this is me. And if the more personal the teacher makes it with the students, then the less work it is on them because they're emotionally attached. So I think any activities that we had where we did skits or we did music or we did food or we watched videos, also listening was the best. I think in order to become proficient, you have to have enough exposure to what the native sounds are and what the natural rhythm and word choice and preferences are of many different speakers. And you can't fake that. You have to just accumulate experience. And a lot of times, if you're only listening to English people speaking Spanish, or if anyone who's not speaking it natively, you have, usually it's degraded the quality of what you're able to learn. So the more exposure they give you to native speakers and varieties of native speakers and people of different ages, that's what I personalized. That's what I would go home and do, because at school we didn't really get that much of it. So I'd go home and watch different, movies or sitcoms or music from all different countries of all different ages, and then picked, who do I think I kind of sound like, or what do I like? And I think if students were allowed to do that in school, then they would, affiliate better with it and I think respond more positively.
Next question. Please respond to this question in Spanish.
Okay.
Since language and culture are so inextricably fused, what cultural elements would you like to incorporate in your teaching, and how would you go about incorporating them?
Bueno, la importancia de la familia es súper importante, porque la gente especialmente latinoamericana, la gente europea entiende la importancia de tener una buena relación con la familia. Entonces yo recomendaría que en la clase compartan bien qué es importante para nosotros, qué es mi cultura y cuál es el tuyo, la tuya. Entonces en la clase me encantaría tener más de la música, del baile, de los deportes, bueno, también la comida, como obviamente todo el mundo encanta la comida. Y también, bueno, las relaciones personales, porque creo que es lo que nosotros pensamos es más importante, es cómo son nuestras relaciones personales, porque eso es lo que queremos pasar, cómo queremos pasar el tiempo. Entonces, entender mejor cómo se comparten, bueno, cómo se interactúan entre un amigo y otro amigo, o como una mamá y su hijo, y cuál es el dinámico, cómo es la relación, y para entender mejor cómo son esas personas, en comparación como yo acto con mi mamá, por ejemplo, y como somos físicamente, la cultura latina es más cómoda, no sé, la cultura es más como informal personalmente, porque hay que tocar todo el mundo, porque así entiende la otra gente, no sé, como un cambio, y no sé, pero en inglés no somos tan, no damos besos, no sé. Entonces, para mí la diferencia tan grande es la energía de la gente, y para mí fue como una experiencia diferente irme a España, por ejemplo, porque yo no estaba como preparada para todo esto, pero me encantó. Entonces, cuando al regresar, quería estar como más afeccionada con mis amigos, no sé, y creo que entender que, bueno, puede ser como relajada en la sala, sería mejor entender esto.